The courtroom was packed tighter than a Friday night stadium. You could feel the tension hanging in the air like static before a storm. The defendant, a young man named Jalen Dawson, sat perfectly still, hands clasped back straight, eyes forward. No fidgeting, no fear, just quiet confidence that unnerved everyone watching. Across from him sat the district attorney, Angela Harlow, known for being ruthless, sharp, and undefeated in her county. She'd made her name breaking defendants down until they confessed or crumbled. But today, something about Jalen's composure bothered her. He didn't look like a man cornered by the system. He looked like someone waiting for it to corner itself. The bailiff's voice broke the silence. "All rise." The judge entered, robes swaying, eyes heavy with years of legal fatigue. Everyone stood, then sat. Jalen didn't glance around. He already knew what every face in that room thought of him. A young black man accused of armed robbery, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit right, facing 20 years. But what no one in that courtroom knew was that Jalen Dawson had come prepared, not just to defend himself, but to expose the system that put him there. Angela Harlow stood, heels clicking like a metronome of control. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, her tone polished and powerful. "This case is about evidence, cold, hard, undeniable evidence. The defendant, Mr. Dawson, was caught on camera robbing a convenience store. His fingerprints were found on the counter. His voice recorded during the crime. This is not a case of mistaken identity. This is accountability." She moved across the floor like a conductor orchestrating outrage with every word. The jurors watched, enthralled. The spectators nodded. Even the judge looked convinced. Jalen sat motionless. When she played the footage, a grainy video of a masked man in a hoodie pointing a gun, she paused the frame. "That's him," she declared. "You can hear his voice yelling, 'Open the register,'" the room murmured. The evidence looked damning, but Jalen just watched, head tilted slightly as though he was studying a bad performance. When the prosecutor finished, she gave a confident smirk and returned to her seat. The defense attorney, a public defender juggling 6 cases that week, leaned in and whispered, "You sure you don't want to testify later?" Jalen's answer was quiet but unshakable. "No need, I'll handle it myself." When it was his turn to question the state's witness, Jalen stood up slowly. The courtroom went silent, not because defendants never spoke, but because this one looked like he knew exactly what he was doing. "Officer Grant," Jalen began, voice even, calm, "you testified that you arrested me outside a convenience store 10 minutes after the robbery." The officer nodded. "Yes, sir. And you said you recognized me from the footage." "That's correct." Jalen took a step closer. "At the time of arrest, did you recover any cash, weapons, or stolen property from me?" The officer hesitated. "No." "Any mask, gloves, or hoodie matching the video?" "No." Jalen nodded slightly. "So your entire claim that I'm the man in that video is based on what? My height, my skin tone?" A quiet ripple moved through the gallery. The officer fumbled. "It was a match based on the surveillance." Jalen's tone sharpened just a fraction. "That video shows a man wearing gloves." "How did you get my fingerprints from a counter I never touched?" Silence. The prosecutor shifted in her seat, eyes narrowing. Jalen turned to the jury, his voice steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, what happens when evidence doesn't match the accusation? What happens when proof is built on assumption?" Angela Harlow rose quickly. "Objection, Your Honor, the defendant is making speeches." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Overruled for now, let him continue." Jalen nodded politely. "Thank you, Your Honor." He turned back to the officer. "You said you pulled my prints from the counter, right?" "Yes, and those prints matched my record from a school ID issued last year." "That's correct." So you ran my ID through the database before confirming the prints, the officer blinked. That's procedure. Oh, Jalen replied softly, that's profiling. A low murmur spread across the courtroom. The judge's gavel tapped once. Order! But it was too late. The momentum had shifted. Jalen continued, you assumed guilt before evidence. You saw a face that fit a stereotype, and the system helped you fill in the blanks. He turned toward the jury. This case isn't about robbery. It's about recognition, what people see when they look at someone like me. Even the prosecutor didn't interrupt this time. For the first time, Angela Harlow looked unsure. The next witness was the store owner, nervous, older, fidgeting in his chair. You said the robber had a tattoo on his right wrist, Jalen asked. Yes, sir. Do I? He rolled up both sleeves, smooth skin, no ink. The jurors shifted. You also said The robber limped on his left leg. The man nodded. Jalen took a step back, walking with perfect stride. I played basketball that same night, no limp then, no limp now. He looked directly at the witness. So tell me, why did you identify me? The man's voice cracked. The police showed me a photo. They said they had their guy. The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel thundered. Order, but the damage was done. The witness avoided Jalen's eyes, shame heavy in his silence. Angela tried to recover. This is a misunderstanding. Jalen's voice cut through. No, Ms. Harlow, this is a pattern. You can't build justice on shortcuts. The audience leaned in. Even the camera from a local reporter zoomed closer. For the first time in her career, Angela had no follow-up. Jalen requested permission to play his own piece of evidence, the raw surveillance file he obtained through discovery. Same video, he said, but unedited. He pressed play. The jury watched the same scene, but now with better clarity. The robber turned toward the camera, and under the hood the man's jawline and scar were visible, details Jalen didn't have. The date stamp, too, was off by a full day. Gasps filled the courtroom. Jalen paused the footage. This isn't me, he said simply. He looked at the prosecutor. You knew this video was edited. You submitted it anyway. Angela stammered. That's not possible. Check the metadata, Jalen said calmly. I did 2 timestamps, one original, one modified. He let the silence hang. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Dawson, are you suggesting evidence tampering? I'm not suggesting anything, Jalen replied. I'm showing you what was hidden. The courtroom was silent. Then, for the first time, the judge spoke with genuine gravity. This court will recess for review. When court resumed, the air was electric. The judge's voice carried a new tone, controlled but furious. After reviewing the evidence, it appears the video presented by the prosecution was altered prior to entry into discovery. Gasps echoed through the room. Angela's face drained of color. The judge continued. The court finds that the evidence is inadmissible and the case against Mr. Dawson is dismissed with prejudice. The gavel fell like a thunderclap, but Jalen didn't smile. He simply gathered his papers, buttoned his jacket, and looked toward the jury. Some nodded, some looked ashamed. As the bailiff unlocked the cuffs, Jalen turned toward Angela. You built your case on assumptions, not truth. You wanted a win, I wanted justice. There's a difference. His words hung in the air long after he walked out. The cameras followed, reporters shouting questions, but Jalen didn't answer. Outside, he took a deep breath of free air, sunlight warming his face. Weeks later, the story made national news. Young defendant exposes corruption in court. Social feeds erupted. Interviews were requested, but Jalen stayed quiet. He didn't want fame, he wanted change. A foundation later invited him to speak to law students about evidence ethics. Standing at the podium, he said only this: justice isn't about punishment, it's about truth, and if you have to bend truth to win, you've already lost. The audience fell silent, hanging on every word. Jalen smiled faintly. The system isn't broken, he continued. It's just run by people who forget they're human. Remember that, and maybe one day justice will mean something again. He left the stage to applause, but his words lingered like an echo long after the clapping stopped. Because sometimes the most powerful victories don't happen outside the courtroom. They happen inside the conscience. If this story inspired you, share it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and join us for more powerful stories about truth, courage, and justice that remind us silence is never strength, and truth always finds a voice.